Hi everyone, it's Madge from Denim and Blether, and today I'm joined by Anchor Lane. How are you guys?
Hello.
Hello.
Good.
Hello.
Very good.
Good. So I wanted to have a chat with you guys today, because I know you've got a brand new album called Call It a Reality coming out in January. So do you want to start by telling us a bit about the making of the album and how it kind of came together?
Well, I mean, really, we started writing it like when we came back from the first sort of lockdown. Um, it was just kind of throwing ideas about, and there was a couple of things that kind of happened even before then. But it was, I suppose the proper time that it started really getting into the kind of serious writing of it was when Graeme joined us. He just kind of brought what we were looking for in terms of like not just the percussion side of things, but then also like kind of Graeme was able to see the song as a progression, the way that like a producer would. So there was a sort of like, okay, well, here's how we're going to build up. Here's how we're going to give the payoff at the end of the song, which was really good. That's what Graeme kind of brought to the band like instantly. And then it was just, a lot of the writing was Lawrence coming in with ideas, coming in with like, like a verse and chorus sort of like skeleton with usually with some kind of cool guitar riff or something like that along with it. And yeah, we just kind of then bounced it off each other and molded it into what became an Anchor Lane song by the end of it.
You've released the first single, which is called Stutter. So do you want to tell us a bit about that track?
Yeah, sure things. Okay, so Stutter was actually the kind of final contribution to the album song-wise. It was I think I submitted the idea over the emails 8 days before we went in the studio. It was really like we've been working on this for quite a long time, and quite a lot of that time was quite gradual, and then the last bit was really, really intense. So I was like, right, there's definitely one more in there. And we'd always wanted like a kind of shuffle song, like a kind of kind of beat, and we'd gone through three that just weren't as good as we wanted them to be, and this was the one that we were just like, okay, yeah, this is good, this is good. I was like, what can this be about? And it was just January at the time, and in January you kind of feel like hibernating. So I was thinking, I was maybe slacking a bit on my social media at the time, so that kind of came into the play. And I was also just thinking about some school stuff for some random reason, and so that kind of came out in the lyrics. Sent it over, and the guys were like, "Yeah, cool, let's make this work because it's a good piece of the puzzle here."
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked what you did with the lyrics on that one because it was kind of based around like the things that happen in high school can sometimes have like a ripple effect into your like regular life, and you kind
Yeah,
of
no,
look back at like how people have got on, and you do that kind of comparison thing, and it's about sort of like calling that out on yourself and on other people.
So from your perspective, what can fans expect from the new album?
I mean, they'll expect. I mean, you've probably heard it as you said. So they can expect something completely different from Casino, at least anyway. It's taken us in a new direction, which is a very purposeful direction. It's something we've deliberately done. We just didn't really identify with Casino anymore for a few reasons that we'll go into later as well. The band's changed a lot. So we wanted to bring ourselves into this more kind of alternative modern scene, because we're influenced by a bunch of modern bands, as well as old school bands, but there's a bunch of great modern alternative bands out there just now that we're influenced by. And couple this new kind of modern sound with really intense songwriting as well. Again, lyrically, the content's really intense, and kind of on the nose. You couple that with the typical kind of energy that we bring. As a three piece, you've really got to sound, you've really got to sound like a five piece at the end of the day. At the end of the day, that's kind of the most compliments you get as a three piece is when you sound like bigger than you are. So, massive sounds, heavy riffs, more poppy, hooky choruses, and a whole bunch of fun, really.
Good. So when it came to the songwriting, how did you kind of go about that? Was that something that you kept kind of within the band, or did you write with any outside writers?
It was just us, yeah. Just the three of us. So basically what happened is I would come up with the ideas because I don't know, there's a lot of frustration and a lot of things I was thinking about, and I'm never lacking for riffs. And then I'd send that in, and we'd bounce off each other until we were happy with what we've got. And sometimes that was like there's not a whole lot change, and sometimes it was like a complete transformation. We had a lot to say, and I think without being a cliche, the lockdown had us. It made everyone think, and we were thinking about a lot of shit, and we were talking about a lot of shit, and I wanted to put that into the lyrics. What we were thinking, this isn't a solo thing. This is how we all feel. So that was important as well.
Yeah. So you guys have got a launch show for the album at the end of January in Glasgow. So how are you looking forward to that?
I mean, that's going to be amazing. Like, playing Glasgow is always like special, and you know, we've spent. I was that way. I was sitting thinking every time we were traveling on tour, I'm like, I'm spending so much time in England now. Like, just a lot of time in England playing, and like it's been great. Like playing a lot of places. We really enjoyed playing a lot of places in England, but you realise how spoiled you've been by the Glasgow crowd, like coming through. Like, you know, I talk to like, you know, younger musicians and stuff like that, and I'm like, you don't realise how great it is playing to a Glasgow crowd. I think it's actually just that Glasgow is so enthusiastic about being at an event and enjoying the moment and being there for it. So to be able to release Call Us a Reality, which has been such a labour of love, but at the same time it's also been like blood, sweat and tears poured into it, to be able to release that and then have the release party the day after in the G2 in Glasgow is just going to be amazing. I might cry. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, exclusive.
So you guys have also had some kind of lineup changes and, you know, change of structure within the band in the last couple of years. So how do you think that's kind of changed your sound and how you're approaching things in a live setting?
So the way it's affected the sound is we've had to be a bit more innovative with how we approach songs and how we approach like the live side of things, because obviously we don't have a bass player anymore because Matthew left in January, and like there's no drama there. Like Matthew just, you know, wasn't enjoying it anymore and left, and we were like, you know, just go and do your own thing, and we'll deal with the bass player thing. And the way we dealt with that was by running a bass track, and the thing that we've been getting most, and Graeme can kind of tell you the most about this, but like sound guys are loving us because there's not a bass amp on the stage, so it's not cluttering the sound that's on the stage. It's just going straight through the PA. It's an already mixed compressed bass sound that's really controlled. And like, how many times have you been told, Graeme, that like they love doing our sound because it's just so much easier?
It's so refreshing. Not, you know, instead of getting wee digs by sound engineers, to just get compliments by sound engineers. It's lovely. It's really nice.
Performance wise, like I would say that if anything, the performance this year has been even more intense than it's ever been, just because like it's, you know, Graeme's at the back and Graeme's a really intense performer on the drums, and then myself and Lawrence have always been really intense.
So you guys have also been working hard for a number of years as a band. And I know obviously there's pressure to be good musicians, to write good songs. But how do you think determination also comes into that success of a rising band like yourselves?
It's it's vital. It's one of these things where, unfortunately, a lot of bands don't make it, and I don't mean into being, you know, world superstars. I just mean in you know, in total, a lot of bands fold, a lot of bands quit, and usually right on the cusp of success as well, because it's a really hard industry. It's really testing, in a lot of ways it's not what you expected when you grew up. So, you know, kind of the biggest thing outside of having maybe even the biggest thing in total, you know, the two big things about kind of being successful and what you want to do is, one, being very good at it, and then two, being passionate enough to work as hard as you need to possibly work, and make the necessary sacrifices to actually get there, because it is a game of sacrifices. And yeah, determination is probably the biggest skill. I would call it a skill because you can develop it as well. But it's definitely one of those things that you just have to have. It's a non-negotiable. Just about nobody gets successful without determination.
Yeah, no, you guys have been great with that. You've been chugging along and keeping going. It's great to see. So I wanted to also ask you, obviously, you've got quite a lengthy UK tour in February in support of the new album. And I know that's something you didn't really kind of get to do in the same way with the last album with the pandemic and everything. So how are you looking forward to that?
How are we looking for? Well, touring is kind of our game, you know. It's just what we really like doing, and it's working for us. We go along, and people say, "Oh, I saw you at the such and such with such and such a couple of months ago," and then they're there to see just you.
When we brought Casino out, and that it was kind of like before Casino came out, it was a kind of like sat in limbo. Oh, we're sitting on this album. Didn't play many gigs that year. When the album comes out, we'll be going on tour, and then also brought the album out. Done like I think we were lucky to get 10 gigs in, and then that was it. Whereas like the fact that like we literally bring this album out, we play our. It's actually been done really well, and I looked at the scheduling for it. Like we have the album launch party, and then we've got a couple of days off to kind of like soak all of that in, and then we hit the road, and it's just like out for majority of February. In fact, all of February, I think. And it's exciting. It's like being able to just go out and like share this thing that really like it's kind of like us coming out and showing what Anchor Lane is now, and kind of we've been trying to show it this year, but until your album's out and the new sound is kind of truly in everyone's ears and it's in the world, no one really knows what Anchor Lane is like now. Whereas when we can actually reveal this is what we are, this is what we've been doing, this is where the band's going, and we can then take that out in the road and show people and share this music that the three of us have worked on, to the point of like to like the brink of like mental breakdown sometimes, and be able to just show people and just have that elation is just going to be it's going to be special.
And do you have any other sort of plans that you can tell us about for next year?
We're gunning for everything. We're trying to get on a lot of festivals and stuff like that in the summer, and if we could branch out into maybe a couple of shows in Europe, we would try and do that as well. But it's so everything's so kind of up in the air at the moment. Like there's still a lot of kind of people who are kind of still dealing with like reschedules from nearly 3 years ago and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like waiting to see what happens. But no doubt we'll do this tour, and something else will kind of get popped on the desk. We've had our last chat with the management, and they're working away with everything, and they work really hard for us. So I'm sure we'll have a very busy year.
Great. Well, guys, thank you so much for chatting, and best of luck with the album release and the upcoming tour and everything else we've got planned. Guys, make sure you check out Anchor Lane and come back to Denim and Blether for more. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.